Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Kent Lutzen. At least 26 people were killed in a mass shooting at a Texas church on Sunday. Police believe a lone gunman was responsible, and they say the suspect is also dead. CBS's Courtney Zubowski is in Sutherland Springs with the story.
Between 40 and 50 people were attending Sunday services at the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs. At about 11:15 a.m., witnesses say a single man with a gun walked in and opened fire on the congregation.
He's a young white male, maybe in his early 20s. He was dressed in all black.
Some 4 people were wounded, more than half of them fatally.
At least at this moment in time, there are 26 lives that have been lost.
The gunman fled the scene in a vehicle, pursued by a private citizen armed with a rifle. After driving north for some time, the suspect's SUV left the road and came to a halt in a field. Police arrived to find the man dead inside it.
At this time, we don't know if it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound or if he was shot by our local resident.
The suspect was later identified as 26-year-old Devin Patrick Kelly. Investigators say they have no idea what may have prompted this rampage.
If you came here wanting to know the motive behind this shooting, you're going to leave here disappointed.
The incident prompted a massive response from local, state, and even federal law enforcement agencies. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are among those who've joined the investigation. Sutherland Springs is about 35 miles east of San Antonio. On Sunday, one person described it as the kind of place where everybody knows everybody, including the people who were killed. Courtney Zubowski for CBS News, Sutherland Springs, Texas.
President Trump, who's in Japan, has been briefed about the shooting. The president wrote in a tweet, "May God bless the people of Sutherland Springs, Texas." Now, back in Montana, police are investigating the standoff at a Billings sporting goods store that led to the suspect's death. Officials still have not identified the man. Chief Rich St. John said he believes the man died due to gunfire from police after 9 hours barricaded inside the store. Cleanup has begun at the Big Bear Sports Center, but it's unknown when the doors will reopen. The store suffered significant damage due to the shooting. New tonight, we received reports of a structural fire in Libby. We reached out to Lincoln County Dispatch for more details. However, they declined. Stay with KPAX online and on air as we follow this story. Switching gears to weather, there are two separate winter weather advisories in effect across western Montana. Let's head over to our Storm Tracker Weather Center with meteorologist Russ Thomas for more. Russ.
Thanks, Kent. Yeah, we do have a couple of winter storm warning advisories, I should say. They're both in effect right now. The one in the Flathead Mission Valley ends at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. The one in the Missoula Bitterroot Valley ends at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. What we're looking at is about 2 to 4 inches in the Bitterroot and Missoula Valley, a little bit more in those higher surrounding elevations. And one of the main problematic areas in terms of slick roads are going to be along the interstate, basically from Lookout Pass all the way toward Butte and along Highway 93 as well. Take a look at our satellite and radar, and you can see a band of snow a little heavier than we have seen any other point over the last 24 hours, just entering the Mission, Flathead, and Missoula Valley. We'll have more on that coming up.
Thanks, Russ. The Frenchtown Rural Fire Department had an extremely busy weekend. They say they normally respond to about 1 to 2 calls in 24 hours. However, yesterday that changed. They responded to 9 calls, largely due to hazardous road, one of which was an overturned semi that had been carrying apples. The crash occurred on I-90 at mile marker 65 going eastbound. When emergency responders arrived on scene, the semi was leaking diesel from its refrigeration system. Another accident occurred on Deep Creek and Southside Road. A vehicle slid down a steep embankment 200+ feet. In order to reach the vehicle, responders set up a rope rescue system. Once they reached the vehicle, it was unoccupied. According to law enforcement, the driver had gotten himself to the hospital. Public Information Officer Mel Holtz says bridges and corners are the biggest concern during the winter.
The other section of the roads, looked okay, so it gave people some kind of false sense that they were okay when they were actually coming up on some black ice.
Despite the more than usual calls, Holtz had a big thank you for all the volunteers. Earlier this fall, the University of Montana announced that it would not be resigning more than 30 of its lecturer contracts. With reprioritization in the works, lecturers are still uncertain of their future at UM.
You know, they aren't tenured, so I mean, they were always in sort of a slightly precarious position. But there was always a feeling of like mutual respect, I think. And I feel like some of them really felt like the university had just turned on them and they didn't understand why.
According to Banville, even after contracts were extended, there's still a lot to figure out. After the university finishes its reprioritization of programs, there could be a need to fill more of these positions, or there could be a need for more cuts. Despite the uncertain circumstances, some of these lecturers continue to put everything they have into educating their students.
We're all kind of numb, walking around numb at that point thinking, huh, and then you process it and talk to family, and you think, okay, if this is going to happen, I'm not going to crawl into a hole. I'll be the best I can be. My plan for what happens if is to stay and make the change from within, teach our way out of the mess, and happily do it.
There'll be a final meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. on campus at the Gallagher Business Meeting Center. Throughout the year, the Fort Missoula Historical Museum collects book donations for their annual book sale fundraiser. And once again, the book sale at the Historical Museum was a huge success. Since the sale began on Thursday, they have raised over $12,000 for the museum. Museum Executive Director says that they received between 40 and 50,000 book donations and had to create an overflow area in an adjacent building. The increased growth and turnout has been really motivating for museum staff.
It's been wonderful. The community has really come out to support this. I think folks kind of tend to look forward to this sale now, so every year they have it on their calendar and they come out. It's an opportunity for them to give back to the community through supporting the Historical Museum, but also, let's be honest, to get some really great books for a really inexpensive price. I mean, we have families that come in that, for $20 can buy enough books for their family for the entire year to keep their kids and to give them new things to read. And I think that makes me really proud of us as an organization.
One of the longest running Broadway shows is hitting the stages at Missoula Community Theater. The show uses familiar ABBA songs to tell the story of a young woman searching for her real father. The turnout nearly sold out all 12 previous shows, and the organizers have had such a high demand that they scheduled additional shows through the weekend. One final show is scheduled tomorrow. Doors open at 7, show at 7:30.
Under the Big Sky is brought to you by Mattress Firm.
Sky series continues this week on the High Line. Great art can come from very humble surroundings. This is true for Don Graytack. Graytack has lived within 100 miles of Havre, Montana for his entire life, and his highly detailed pencil drawings are created in a truly humble setting.
Some people have asked me about my studio. Well, it's easier to describe it more as a dungeon. I work in my basement. It's a low ceiling. The house was built in 1920. And it's pretty crude. The space is very adequate for me. I have books and other reference material, and it's big enough to hold what I want. I need very little area to work. I have a drafting table. I've had it for many years. Now I have a computer in the basement. It's not hooked up to the internet, but I can get images off quickly. And they say, well, what about lighting? You don't have any natural light. And I said, I have a light bulb. That's all I need for what I do. For painters, no. But for what I do, it's fine. The world thanks me for not painting. I try to do a little art. I try to paint. I don't have a feel for color. I just didn't get that gift at all. We all have our gifts. And I was just fortunate enough to have the 2 or 3 that I needed to pull together what I do.
Tune in next week during the 10 p.m. news, Monday, Montana This Morning, and noon news for Under the Big Sky. Coming up after the break, meteorologist Russ Thomas will be in with a look at the upcoming week's forecast. Plus, 2 cubs are making their new home at a California zoo. Stick around to take a look at these furry guys.